Hello, my lovely people. It's Saturday. Let's get into it. We've got to cover all the big stuff that happened this week. We'll look at a new price prediction methodology for Bitcoin. No guarantees, of course. It is a little bit of a stretch, but it is also very interesting. We'll look at the infinite money glitch with a stunning chart that you won't believe. Copper, which indicates that maybe a recession is not happening. Money flow, correlation with liquidity, a couple of altcoins, and so much more. Market cap is 2.31 trillion. Bitcoin, as you speak right now, is 65,737. And dominance is down to 56%. It's coming off the highs, so that's good. And let's get into all the stuff and not financial advice. First of all, this week in crypto over the last 7 days, divided by Bitcoin, we had Solana, XRP, Cardano, Avalanche, Binance, Litecoin, Doge, Tau, all beating Bitcoin. ETH still lagging behind Bitcoin. Looks like that trend has been there all year. But ETH itself has done pretty well. And I said it looked like we hit a really solid bottom last week at 2,250 or so. It's now 2,600. So it's hanging in there. In terms of where the week has gone, literally we are flat for the week, despite it a lot of being very good feelings out there. And you can see everything else is kind of green. But at the end of the day, what exactly is going on? There's a lot of very positive sentiment, but it's weird, and I don't get it. So, for example, if where you look, whether it's crypto Twitter or magazines like Crypto Slate, Bitcoin climbs to 66,000, marking best September performance in history. And the rally comes amid optimism driven by the Fed's rate cut, economic stimulus, China, sustained demand for institutional players, etc. Yeah, we'll get into some of the crazy ETF stuff that's happened, but is it the best September ever? As you know, we track everything here, and I don't know what crypto Twitter and everybody's looking at, but if we look back to 2012, you can see the return in 2012 was 15.1%. The return so far this September is 11.4%. So therefore, it is not the best September ever. But considering September is the worst month for Bitcoin, it's actually doing pretty well. Average returns are down minus 4.7%, and we're up 11.4%. But as I've said multiple times this year, everything is shifted left a month. So Rectember is supposed to be bad, but we had the carry trade happen for Japan on the 5th of August, which wrecked the market, but the rebound was stunning. And that was remarkable. Therefore, we could have a nice positive September. What happens after that is interesting. If we look at a history of Bitcoin returns, and Q4 coming in how many days? 2 days? This is interesting. November is the best month for Bitcoin ever. October is the second best month, and December is always good, despite people being on holiday, etc. The question is, what's going to happen this time around? Could we have 3 positive monthly returns for Bitcoin? Considering the money flow lately, yes. Considering global liquidity, yes. Considering historic trends, yes. But remember, we've shifted left a bit, where the negative red September didn't happen. So we might get perhaps a negative October, November, December. It all depends how high we go. If we have a massive month of October, last October we had 28.4%, which was huge, then things can kind of mean revert a little bit. And even if it's just down 1 or 2%, it will still be red. So either way, Q4 is going to be great, as we've been saying for quite a while now. Also, this is the kind of the part of the story today I thought was very interesting. This is from CoinGlass, and it's a very simple, crude indicator, which I always say the best things in life are simple things. But this is the Bitcoin Investor Tool 2-year moving average multiplier. So if you look at this chart, you'll see the Bitcoin price in white. When it's green, that's the kill zone. That's the time you buy, like bear markets and stuff. Remember, billions are made in the bears. And then when it's above, it goes red. That means we're overheated. And the purple is kind of the 2-year moving average. Now, the question is, what exactly does this mean? Thank you, by the way, to T&D Tesla for being here, and Joe the Hun, and Sean Donnelly, and everybody else. Des in Namibia, thank you all for coming. But what I did was I took this chart and modified it a little bit. And I added green arrows to where we had breached this exact indicator, the 2-year moving average times 5, which is the red line I want you to focus on. Historic bull runs, we've done this, pierced this level 5 times, including last bull run. The question is, could it happen again? Could history repeat? Again, it worked 5 times in the past. And if it does, if we take the 2-year moving average, which is $38,687, you multiply that by 5, you get $193,438. The question is, could we go that high? There's a lot of people talking about very big moves for Bitcoin. A lot of people are talking about 250,000, 150,000, etc. I'm not sure. I don't think we can see this happen unless we see a massive supply crunch hit like yesterday. Let's talk about what happened yesterday for a second in Bitcoin Black Hole. We'll look at the big flows. First of all, September has been pretty incredible so far. $1.2 billion in, nearly 18,000 Bitcoin absorbed. Much of that action in the last couple of days. The other cool thing that I think is pretty interesting, when we look back since the inception of these ETFs, they have sucked in 324,100 Bitcoin since launch. And that is over, let's get the number, I think it's 181 trading days exactly. When you take that amount of Bitcoin, you divide, thank you Ashley for coming, in Europe, no less. And when you take 324,100 Bitcoin, you divide it by 181 days, that's exactly 1,790 Bitcoin absorbed per day into the ETFs, which is precisely 4 times the daily issuance. Thank you as well, Sir and Dragon. The question is, everybody, the question is, if this continues, 180 trading days in, can it continue for another year, year and a half, 2 years? If that does happen, we will face a supply crunch. But then again, if we do face a supply crunch, the price will go to the moon, and then people will take profits, which will balance things out. And that's just the way markets work. Either way, we'll be monitoring very carefully and see what happens. Let's look at some ETF charts as well. We had the 9th best day ever of money flow into the ETFs yesterday, nearly $1 billion. I knew it would be good because the money was, I think it was over $500 million before BlackRock and Fidelity even registered their returns. And then you can see 17,000 Bitcoin were absorbed this week. So when you look at this compared to what happened for the month of September, all of the absorption bar 760 Bitcoin happened this week in just 5 days, which is pretty staggering. And when you look at the total money flow, new record total money into these ETFs. And we are back. We are now definitely in the big third accumulation phase for Bitcoin. And let's celebrate swipe or no swiping. It's your 10th super on a live stream. That's the notification I get from the system. So thank you all for coming. Now, let's talk about crypto as well. The AI narrative still on top. We'll talk about how that relates to stocks as well in a minute. But again, over the last month, AI top, meme coin, number 2. And there's a cute little animal called Mudong or something, which is very adorable. But I don't do meme stocks, or meme tokens. So what am I going to do? But Bitcoin over the last month, up 10.5%. Ethereum now positive, up 5.7%. Data availability, data services, real world assets, bridges, all doing really well. Everything is positive across all of crypto over the last month. And that is the first time we've seen that in quite some time, at least since April of this year. Let's look at the top L1, L2s for the week and break it all down on our big spreadsheet. And shout out to Artemis for the data. The TVL winner is Near Protocol. Stablecoin winner is Optimism and Avalanche. Daily active user winner is Solana. And daily transaction winner is Aptos. So again, a bit of a mixed board there, but it's good to see other chains growing in one way or another. Also, DPIN, the top DPIN gainers for the last month. Echo, number 1 at 38%. PYTH, rebounding back at 32%. IO, 19%. Helium, 14%. Nasana, 10%. Nasana is lagging the AI plays. IoT, 8%. But again, everything is positive. Everything is coming back slowly. And not just crypto, but also CZ is back. There's a funny meme. CZ is out of prison. He's back. Pump it up. And now everybody believes since he's out, he's going to be the catalyst to take Bitcoin to $100,000. We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, who knows if there's any correlation between him or not. I just think it's funny what crypto Twitter says as well. Let's look at stocks before we get into Bitcoin versus MicroStrategy. Super interesting one to share today. AI is back in stocks also, not just crypto. Tesla up another 10%. They're doing 10% plus weeks back to back for like a month now. Tesla's at $262 in after hours. Remember, it was at $140 literally 2 months ago. So it's madness, $160, whatever. It's come a long way, and a lot of anticipation for We Robot Day, they call it now. Not iRobot, the movie, but We Robot. So they have something very planned, very historic, and even Elon is pumped. NVIDIA also up 5%, up at about 122 right now, heading back to 130. So yes, we shall see. All good as well. And what else do we have here? This is kind of the interesting story. As you know, I've been a big proponent of MicroStrategy since they began their Bitcoin strategy. And this is a telling chart. And shout out as well to, the name will come to me in a second for the inspiration for this. But if you go back in time, thank you, Crypto Dinosaur. If you look at the Bitcoin price, it hit 66,000 on 23rd of April, May 16th, June 17th, July 30th, September 27th. It's like the big Ed image of waking up to 58,000, 66,000 all the time. It's just constantly repeating. But this 66,500 is a clear level of resistance. Once we break through that, we go straight to 70K. The question is, can we break through it? Right now, it is a resistance level, but that glass, as usual, needs to be tapped a few times before you can break through it. But the key part of this chart is not only the price of 66K across those 5 dates, but when you compare the price of MicroStrategy to those exact 5 dates is what's fascinating. 133, 144, 150, 160, 176. What does this look like on a chart? Here, despite dilution, despite new debt, what MicroStrategy is doing is they're adding more Bitcoin to their balance sheet, and the market is recognizing it. Now they're beginning to really understand what this thing is all about. Buying Bitcoin cheap, borrowing money at 0%, and investing in Bitcoin. Bitcoin value goes up, so does the stock. And this shows you the price of Bitcoin in blue, 66,000, and the cost of each share, again, despite dilution, etc., goes up 133, 144, 150, 160, 176. And who knows where it's going to go next. Either way, for right now, we are riding this train. And it's been the best train ever for years. Anyhow, speaking of other trains, Tesla is now back in the top 10 global companies on planet Earth. Apple, number 1, Microsoft, number 2. It always cracks me up the way the top 3 are all around $3 trillion. Google, $2 trillion. Amazon, $2 trillion. Saudi Aramco, 1.8. Meta, 1.4. Berkshire, just under $1 trillion. TSMC, 926. And Tesla, 826 billion. And Tesla will be $8 trillion soon, because as I've calculated and analyzed, the energy business alone for Tesla is worth $1 trillion. But Wall Street doesn't know how to appraise it. So that's our advantage, so we can stack early before the rest of the world wakes up. And shout out and good luck to the following on Falcon 9. Crew 9 commander is Nick Hague, and mission specialist Alexander Gorbanov. May those two be safe and pick up their cargo of the 2 NASA astronauts stranded in space and bring them home safe. So hope everything works out good for all these folks. Also, a little bit of macro as well. This GMI, global markets investor, not macro markets, but the market says the Fed is behind the curve the most in 3 decades. When after the 50 basis point cut, the difference between the Fed interest rate and the 2-year Treasury yields is the highest in over 30 years. The white is the 2-year Treasury, 3.6, and Fed funds target rate is 5%. That big delta, again, is historic. Hasn't been this high since the early 90s. And the question is, what's going to happen? Well, the simple way to interpret this, the Fed is very far behind. Short-term rates are tanking. Therefore, the Fed has to cut faster than they even would like to bring everything back to equilibrium. This is not sustainable. Therefore, Rate cuts are going to come fit, fast, and furious over the next 12 weeks or less. Guaranteed at least 125 basis points in total. Now, on top of the 50 basis points we already had, so it's another 75, plus maybe a little bit more as well. And we've seen the impact on Bitcoin, on stocks of this rate cut, which we also said was going to happen. Everybody is, saying, oh no, when they cut rates, there's going to be a recession and the market's going to lose 50%. No. So that's just how it works. And Dixie, as a result of all this, is also breaking down, which is also good for Bitcoin. This is from Titan of Crypto, you can see here. It's funny, he has it listed as a breakout. A breakout is normally to the upside, but when Dixie breaks out to the downside, it's considered a breakout because it pumps all our risk assets. And we like that. And he has a target here of about 78.64%. Not sure if we go that low, but either way, Dixie is tanking, just like the rates have to tank as well. Now, let's check in on the rising tide that will float all of our bags. Global liquidity breaks $100 trillion. We are now exactly $100,267 billion. And that $267 billion in global liquidity was added in like 48 hours. That's how fast this thing is going up. And as I promised you all in my 2024 predictions video, I did it in December 2023. This was one of my top 30 predictions that global liquidity would smash $100 trillion. Again, we've broken 100 trillion. We haven't exactly smashed it yet, but the trajectory at which this thing is going up right now, look at the blue line. That's the delta, year-over-year delta. It has added 6% in weeks, ladies and gentlemen. 6% in a matter of weeks. This thing is going up fast. And that's before the Chinese stimulus has even been booked. And all the other stimulus is going to come out of the ECB, the Fed, etc. So good times. Now, for our friends in Australia, who are probably asleep right now still, but what tracks global liquidity the most? And there's an Australian story that I bolted on the end of this, so be patient with me here. But this is fantastic. And just focus on the orange boxes. This is over the last 18 months, the actual sensitivity to 10% global liquidity shock. And the winner is Bitcoin is the most sensitive. It goes up the most when global liquidity goes up. In the past, you could argue ETH did that, but ETH is now not doing that anymore. It's a different kettle of fish, but this is good. Number two, by the way, again, just focusing on the orange, is the most sensitive to liquidity. Is then number two is the Bitcoin over gold pair as well, which is of course tied to Bitcoin. So either way, more liquidity is coming, and the thing that'll rise the most as a result of that is Bitcoin. So you just have to sit back and do nothing. It's going to go up. That's it. That's it. All the people all summer who said, oh, Bitcoin's topped out, bull market's over. No, not at all, because it follows liquidity, and liquidity is going to go to the moon. Okay, that's just how it works. It's not hard. Don't overthink any of this stuff. It's not tricky. And for our friends in Australia, I find this to be fascinating, just to show you not only the lag between global liquidity, but how it impacts risk assets and hard assets like Bitcoin real estate. This is unbelievable. Here, you can see Australian home prices and global liquidity going back to 2011. And you can see clearly the orange is global liquidity and black is the home prices. And it follows pretty directly. Now, remember, this is with a 9-month lag, because real estate is not like a stock. It doesn't move quickly. It takes time for people to plan and sell and close deals and stuff like that. But there is a 9-month lag. Now, as global liquidity goes up, your real estate in Sydney and Melbourne and Perth and all these good places is going to go up too. How much will it go up? Could be another 20% over the next 12 months. Let's come back and revisit this in a year's time and find out exactly what happened. Either way, it floats all boats, ladies and gentlemen. And the final chart of the day, Dr. Copper is heading back up. This is Copper on the ATR model going back to 2015. You can see here it bounced clean off of level 5 with the buy signal. Now, what is interesting is copper is often referred to as Dr. Copper, and it's been an excellent barometer of global economic health. But there's a problem. And people say, how come a metal can have a PhD in economics? Well, it's used for all industrial purposes. So when industry is pumping, copper is needed, therefore the price of copper goes up. But there's something else happening as well, because we know the global macro is a mess. You look at manufacturing in Germany and places like that, US is a disaster zone, China, disaster zone. So there is something else going on here, and that is probably, I believe, the ongoing trend of electrification across multiple sectors is creating an unprecedented demand for copper. And the surge, again, is because it's needed for everything from renewable energy, electric vehicles, the most advanced technologies, are all driving copper to new heights. And I do believe we'll see $5.20 soon as well. And for those commodity traders as well, you can see bounce clearly off the fifth level, heading back to $5.20. And then it'll probably mean revert again. But we'll see. But Dr. Copper is changing because of the electrification of the world. So that's the story today. Q&A tomorrow at noon Pacific. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for all the support. Thank you, TNT Tesla. Thank you for the likes. I won't waste your time. But if you hit the like, as I learned recently, it'll show you content like this. Not from me, but from other people. Maybe even people that I watch too. Which you'd be surprised. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Have a great Saturday, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.